Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of FiST Chat, your weekly dose of everything film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we doing this week, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone out there in FiST Chat land. It's nice to be back, and I'm enjoying our new format, Ben. I hope everyone out there is too.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. We can squeeze a lot more in with the way things are going at the moment. So we're going to keep on trucking along at a rapid pace with all these topics. And so let's get stuck into the next one then. So we're going green this week. Now, we've talked a little bit about before about economic growth, how it's not something that people can expect to go on indefinitely. And there was an article that I read on the ABC this week, which was basically suggesting that a possible solution for a lot of these struggling economies that are trying to use austerity measures to get themselves out of their sort of their woeful situations is to actually kickstart their economies with sort of like a green economy, get the green industries up and running, because that's where the future is really lying. That's the long-term type of industry, type of the green innovations, and that's where potentially long-term they can get maybe their economies going. But of course, that's a long-term thing, and as we both know from observation, governments seem to be acting on the short term these days.
Well, that's what governments do. I guess we can't hope for anything more, but there's no doubt that there's a huge economic and political and social change now as people move towards whatever this new economy might be. But part of what's driving it, or what usually drives these sorts of things, is just pure economics. Fossil fuels are not cheap and easy anymore, so we need new energy sources, or we need to use less energy, or we need to get in renewables, has been the case. And also we can make things far more effectively than just good old mass production. So I believe there was even in that article, Ben, a little bit about 3D printers, which personally I think are the next big thing.
Yeah.
And, the fact that I reckon soon we might be entering for the first time an era of what might have been called old-fashioned know-how, and a combination of technology with that and engineering at home.
Yeah, absolutely. If we bring up that 3D printing example that you mentioned, before I go through it, a lot of the things in this article are basically suggesting that there is a groundswell, a big shift in the way things are done, and that might be why everything's sort of like unbalanced, or it feels like it's going through some sort of teething problems at the moment. For example, in the article, Airbus moved from injection molding to 3D printing to produce metal hinges for its
that's
airplane
incredible
doors.
In itself. That is incredible.
Absolutely, and it reduced their weight by half, and it ends up yielding savings in material and associated fuel consumption. So, I think as you mentioned before we got on the topic, that sort of limits the amount of work that engineers have to do, for example. So, it's an amazing thing, and I think you can see that sort of shift towards technology. I mean, you can just have a look at how well Silicon Valley's been doing these days. That's where the boom is. So maybe it's a combination of technology and green industry that will see us going forward.
Absolutely, but a lot of this hasn't happened overnight. So, for instance, some of the nastiest architecture of the 1960s and 1970s, and I'm talking about high-rise, they generally tend to end up sort of, poor socioeconomic apartment or housing or something like that. But they have effectively been described as bridges with walls, in that was the architecture, just stick up some girders, stick across some girders horizontally and fill them in, and really poor heating and cooling and general amenity in that. Now with the materials they've got insulated walls. They can build things in a way using glass even to keep places cool. So there's remarkable architectural achievements. We perhaps don't need brick in the same way that we once did. With cars, you can move to lighter alloys. Hopefully, cars will be designed to be more recyclable, or more effectively so. We're seeing this, in a whole range of things, even with our products at home. So I don't know. I'd love to know how recyclable an iPad is, or because I know traditionally PCs and CRT monitors weren't, but you'd like to think these days those things too are being built with that recyclable sort of aesthetic in them. Certainly, there's a whole lot of things now. I guess we recycle our organic waste if we can, if we've got a place to do that at home. And we can also recycle all the cardboard and paper and things like that. They're industries that are going to be very effective.
If we bring it back to the government level, now, one thing I was thinking about this week was this idea of if we bring the GFC in. Now, that is, you could maybe argue that is sort of like they're trying to look for like infinite economic growth, and then it blew up. Spectacularly. And I'm just wondering if there is a parallel there with the way we treat the world as well. That could the same type of thing end up happening to the world if we treat it, say, with the way we treated the economy for the GFC, and that's what happened. I mean, obviously they're not the same thing, but there seems to be a pattern of behaviour there where we think that we can just keep growing indefinitely, or we can keep keep being greedy, being selfish, looking for those short-term gains. And that's where it's all heading, and that's where I think the unfortunate thing is, because a lot of the response, I think, at the government level towards a lot of what's happened in the last couple of years, it has been short term. So, for example, the austerity measures are a short term sort of fix, a band-aid solution, and of course, people, whether they realise it or not, they're rejecting it in droves because it's not actually working. It's not a when traditionally when you cut things, you're not going to spur growth or any sort of innovation. So, but is the problem that working in, say, green industry, getting those green innovations happening, is that because it's sort of like an airy-fairy sort of topic? It's not like something that's traditionally been, what business might like? That sort of thing?
That's a really good point. Is it what business might like? I think as energy prices soar, the thing about recycling is that traditionally it's been expensive. But the reality is that very often in recycling, a lot of the energy's already been spent. So, for instance, digging up ore from the ground to turn it, to get iron, to turn it into steel. When you recycle that, that does take an energy input, but if you've got enough to recycle, it's actually cheaper than going and digging it up and then shipping it wherever you've shipped it to. So there is actually a lot of value, a lot of energy value stored in materials that can be recycled. Once that's economically realised, you'll see a boom in that. I think, there is a bit of a battle, between, I guess, say, more environmental groups that don't want to see land encroached by mining or usually mining or housing, or as cities grow. And there's a battle at the moment because that land is worth more to develop for whatever reason than it is to keep as agricultural. However, as we start to get scarce of high quality food, then you'll see that land will increase in value, and miners and housing people won't be able to buy it anyway. It's a funny old world we live in, but these sorts of constructs are, basically economic, and they do eventually drive. I mean, eventually the right answer becomes economically viable, and at that point you get a whole new boom as people adopt it.
Yeah, and that's before all the politics and those ideological battles sort of come into it. So it's a very big topic, and we'll come back to it again in the future. It's very fascinating. I just hope we find our way forward in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll move on to our film science technology wrap-up now, and I'm sure, Steve, you'll be pleased to know that Blade Runner was named Best Sci-Fi Film by SFX magazine.
I reckon you know what I'm going to ask, Ben. Which one? Was it the director's cut or the original?
Unfortunately, it doesn't say, but yeah, it's up there at the top. I think timely because Ridley Scott's coming out with Prometheus this year.
I was going to mention Prometheus. Could it be as good as Alien?
Yeah, that's the trick. And where would it fit on this list? Because Alien is actually number 8 on this top 10 list, which I thought was quite interesting. Aliens was actually higher. It's Aliens was number 3, which I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah, Aliens wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as Alien. And the other interesting thing about it was that Ridley Scott did Alien in 79, Blade Runner in 82, and then no other science fiction for 20 years.
Yeah.
30 years. 30 years.
Maybe he got it out of his system and now he's just getting the itch back.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a good film. I can't wait to see it.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to some science. I love this one. Wearable energy. T-shirts could charge phones. So using a simple process, engineers baked a cotton T-shirt into activated carbon. They added a thin conductive metal layer, creating a stable, high-performing supercapacitor. And these engineers envision using cotton for energy storage in flexible electronics, roll-up displays, and implanted medical devices. So, you know, you're walking along with your iPhone and your T-shirt's charging it up. Fantastic.
Well, it's incredible. I wear a nylon shirt and I get plenty of charge anyway. I'm surprised that it's cotton. That is the really interesting thing about that. The mechanics and that sort of thing of energy storage is actually pretty simple if you've got the right fibres.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they're able to do that in a cotton shirt. I can't wait. You'll be able to charge your phone. Smartphones, it won't matter that you've only got 3 hours battery life.
Absolutely. Or maybe is it that this sort of technology will be used actually in your traditional type of devices, the idea that you could roll up your computer kind of thing, or whatever.
This is getting back to the topic we started on tonight, but eventually I think our computers and all of our gadgets will actually be foldable, but charging them by walking around and wearing clothing is a great idea, and they're the sorts of green sort of industries that are the ones that really will change everything.
Absolutely. And now if we move on to our tech topic for the week, iPads could scan palms for passwords. The idea using multi-touch sensors, an app could authenticate a user by hand gestures, and biometric security could replace passwords which are easier to crack. So in effect, you put your hand on your iPad and it recognizes the way you swipe and it knows it's you. I'm sure that's all foolproof too.
I just would like to do that and get the iPad to tell me my future.
Yeah, that's about the only thing it can't do, right?
I think there are apps for that already. I haven't checked, but I'm sure there are.
Well, apparently there is an app being written according to this article. It's probably a year away from being ready, but the proof is in the pudding. We'll see what it can do. But I guess using thumbprints and that sort of thing is not as a scanning device. That's not really a new sort of thing, is it?
I would have thought a retinal scan, which the US Homeland Security takes every time you enter the country, or a thumbprint, which I think they take as well, would be more than enough. Yeah. I don't know why you need the whole palm.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's a bit of our wrap-up. We'll just finish off the app today with just a couple of recommendations. I just wanted to mention the Discovery News app for the iPhone. They also have a website, news.discovery.com. Actually, those last two topics we talked about did come from there, but the iPhone app is actually really intuitive and really good to use, and there's a lot of really fun and interesting topics to read on it, so I highly recommend that you get it. So you got anything for us, Steve?
I'm heading over to Melbourne next weekend, and I'm going to go to the Wallace and Gromit's exhibition because I love a little bit of invention or backyard inventing. So I'll report back from that for everyone for FiST Chat. Absolutely.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks very much for the chat today, Steve. Always good, always insightful, and looking forward to next week's topic, whatever that may be. And just wanted to finish up by quickly saying just a quick apology to to our listeners for last week. We had a few issues with our YouTube video, which is a bit unfortunate, but out of it, we've now got a Vimeo channel that is proving to be a bit of a backup. So make sure that you can access that. We've got all the links on the website now, so you'll be able to watch us on Vimeo as well.
See you on Vimeo.
Absolutely. So don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all those links there. That's it for this week's episode, so we'll catch you next week.